to worship. You are to who you are to worship. You know, and I wanted to talk about how Israel seemed to struggle with their identity as, the chosen people of God. No one plans to change his or her God. Have you ever noticed that? When something happens in somebody's life, it wasn't necessarily their plan. And so this morning, we're going to look at a collection of scriptures. What does it mean to worship? So I grabbed this out of one of the online dictionaries, and it's just kind of a straightforward, love or devotion to a deity, an idol, or a sacred object. Ceremonies, prayers, or other religious forms by which love is expressed. A chapel where worship is held daily. Admiration or love, adoration, the worship of celebrities. These are just some of the things that come out of the definition, of what worship is. And we can see it in many aspects of our life. It's not just what we do when we come in here and we sing to our God and we contribute as the offering plate passes by. Our devotion, whether we're faithful in our tithes, whether we're faithful in our time, whether we're charitable persons, all of that is just part of what worship is. Worship is more than just a single segment of what we think of. Joshua, after the promised land was basically conquered, we see that Joshua has summoned the elders. He assembled all the tribes of Israel at Shechem and summoned Israel's elders, leaders, judges, and officers. They presented themselves before God. Joshua said to the people, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from the region beyond the Euphrates and led him throughout the land of Canaan, multiplied his descendants, gave him Isaac, and Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I gave the hill country of Seir to Esau as a possession, but Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron. I plagued Egypt by what I did there, and afterwards I brought you out." Now this is an interesting thing, because in this summary, these elders would have been young, like Elias young, when the plagues of Egypt had occurred. Now you got to remember, Moses led them in the wilderness for 40 years, and that unfaithful generation has passed on. Those who were young remember the plagues. When I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you reached the Red Sea, the Egyptians pursued your fathers with chariots and horsemen as far as the sea. Your fathers cried out to the Lord, so he put darkness between you and the Egyptians and brought the sea over them, engulfing them. Your own eyes saw what I did to Egypt. After that, you lived in the wilderness a long time. Later, I brought you into the land of the Amorites who lived beyond the Jordan. They fought against you, but I handed them over to you. You possessed their land, and I annihilated them before you. Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent out to fight against Israel. He sent Balaam, son of Beor, to curse you. But I would not listen to Balaam. Instead, he repeatedly blessed you, and I delivered you from his hand. As you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho, the people of Jericho, as well as the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, and Jebusites fought against you, but I handed them over to you. I sent a hornet ahead of you and drove out 2 of the Amorite kings before you. It was not by your sword or bow. I gave you a land you did not labor for, cities you did not build, though you live in them. And you're eating from vineyards and olive groves you did not plant. Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds like kind of a nice place. You know, here you go. Here's a house. The field's already planted. All you have to do is occupy. Joshua then concludes, therefore, fear the Lord and worship him in sincerity and truth. Get rid of your gods of your fathers, worship beyond the Euphrates River and Egypt, and worship Yahweh. But if that does not please you to worship Yahweh, choose for yourself today the one you will worship. The gods of your fathers worship beyond the Euphrates River, the gods of the Amorites in whose lands you are living. As for me and my family, I will worship Yahweh. And with a loud voice, the crowd said, we will certainly not abandon the Lord to worship other gods. Now we see this statement from them. But from the time of Joshua, the next 400 years, next 500 years, is the period of the judges. And why is there a period of the judges? Because they would do what is right in their own eyes. And they would worship foreign gods. They would abandon the worship that God had given them. They would not do the things asked of them by Moses. But here they said, we will not worship other gods. Now this is an interesting thing, because as you and I think, we can say with certainty, we don't plan to change our God. So how does people who know God's blessing in their life stray? So let's look at some scriptures. The definition backslide. How many of you have ever known somebody to backslide? Even Lutherans have to know this, right? Even Lutherans have to know what a backslid person is?
Well, just look in the mirror.
So, to revert to a bad habit or lapse in religious practice is the definition. To slide back, to fall away, to abandon gradually the faith and practice of a religion that has been professed. Regress, to slip backwards, to revert to a previous worse state. I think all of us have known people that were on the right track and something derailed them. Most of us probably can come up with more than one example. Somebody on the right track that got derailed, and sometimes they don't get back on track. Now, the idea of the railroad track is an interesting one, because it doesn't take too much to derail a train, right? Because you got all the weight and all that, and on the metal rails, and the premise is, as long as the inside of the wheels are on the inside of the tracks, they stay there, right? Yeah, the lip is not that long, depending on, and again, you're on the right track when things go well. But it doesn't take much for that track not to be safe. It doesn't take much for a wheel to be misaligned. It doesn't take much to get off track. Bless you. Hebrews 10. For if we deliberately sin after we receive the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains sacrifice for sin, but a terrifying expectation of judgment and the fury of a fire about to consume the adversary. If anyone disagrees with Moses' law, he dies without mercy based on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Now, if we take this verse at its baseline, it should motivate each and every one of us to strive to be the best person that we are asked to be by God. But I don't know about you, but it is so easy to get tired. Have anybody ever got tired? Where you just like, I don't really care. I think I need sleep more than anything else. I know I got a to-do list. I know there are chores to be done, but I'll just put them off until next week, next month, sometime in the future. Who knows when? I'll put that on a to-do list sometime. It is so easy to get like that with God sometimes. God knows I'm wore out. God knows I'm tired. He doesn't need. And then before we know it, we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing. We're saying things we shouldn't say. We're withholding back our tithes and our offerings, and we are no longer on the tracks, heading the right direction. We didn't plan to be off the tracks. We didn't plan to be going down the wrong way. But all of a sudden, that train feels like an ATV, bouncing around in the ditch, not going where it needs to go. And the funny thing is there's a gully up front ahead of us. And the gully's only path is over the railroad tracks. There's nothing else. You will hit the cavern if you don't get back on the tracks. Using the analogy of what we're talking about here. No one plans to backslide. But here we are. If you deliberately sin. Now that means anything, right? What is a deliberate sin? It could be anything, big or small. And again, big or small according to our eyes, not according to God's eyes. It is easy for us to lose track of where we are. How much worse punishment do you think one will deserve who has trampled on the Son of God, regarded as profane the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified, and insulted the Spirit of grace? For we know the one who said, vengeance belongs to me, I will repay. And again, the Lord will judge his people. It is a terrible thing to fall into the hands of a living God. All of us, we embrace the fact that we have a living God. And we love the grace and mercy. But give you no mistake that grace and mercy doesn't give you a right to perpetuate sin, expecting the grace to abound more. Grace does not abound more when you choose to sin. God would prefer that you not sin and not have to ask for forgiveness than to intentionally sin, expecting to be forgiven, and not change your life. All of us, when God grabs us in our place, wherever we are, something begins to work in us. And the interesting thing is each and every one of us have a different story. Each and every one of us gave up something different to get to the right track. You know, to get, and again, I know for me, my idols in my life that I had to walk away from to grow in Christ are things that as a person, most people would think are small. To me, they weren't small. They were my idol. It was my thing that I worshiped. I would rather give a lot of other things than my idol. God wants our devotion to him. Why do you think he says in the Ten Commandments, I am a jealous God? Think about that. We think jealousy is a negative trait, but God says, I am a jealous God. Why do you think he's a jealous God? Because he wants our devotion. He wants our worship. And just like Israel said when Joshua was at the end of his days, we will worship the Lord. I will say this, choose this day who you will serve and make that choice every morning when you get up. Make that choice every morning. And it's the old adage, Lord, I have not sinned yet today. Lord, I have not robbed anybody. I have not cheated anybody. I have not lied. I've not been guilty of anything, but I need you more than ever because I'm about to put my feet outside the bed. Choose this day who you will serve and make that a regular thing. And when you find yourself tempted by something, step back, take a deep breath, choose this day to whom you will serve. Avoid that place where backslidden choices occur. And it's easy to do when you're proactive versus trying to be reactive and get back on the tracks. Because once the train's off the track, do you know how much energy it takes to get back onto track? A train is a big thing. A locomotive is not just like you can't just go and put your shoulder into it, tilt it back up, put it back on the track. It's a big deal. You know, it's a lot. So let's stay on track. Let's make the decisions. Let us pursue this day whom we will serve. And let us not be discouraged when life feels like we're tired. Being tired is natural. It comes with it. But let us not allow it to derail us from our purpose. Let us not derail us for striving to be that best person that Christ has asked us to be. All right. Do we have a closing hymn? All right. Please come.